Right, since it's the first one, I thought it might be nice if we all introduce ourselves. So I'm Hannah Lawson, I'm representative of Castle Ward and I'm the convener. So shall we start with who's in the room?
Councillor Mary Jones, and I represent Dunbar and Calais now, and I'm on this panel.
Hello, my name is Councillor Michael Locke, and I represent Sketty Ward.
Morning, Councillor David Hopkins, Cabinet Member for, well, seems to be lots of things at the moment, to be honest with you, but yes, in scrutiny more than probably most at the moment. So, yeah, Cabinet Member, Corporate Services and Performance.
Shall I go then? Hiya, Joe Hale, Councillor for St Thomas Ward.
I'll jump in here, Councillor Will Thomas, Councillor for Mumbles.
Sarah Keaton, Councillor for West Cross.
Bridget Rowlands, Councillor for the Clydach Ward.
Councillor Chris Evans, Councillor for Wales Ward.
Wendy, do you want to go next?
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if there was some magic way of being told it was your turn to speak because nothing is coming up on my screen. Anyway, I'm Wendy Fitzgerald, Pennsylvania Ward.
Councillor Andrea Lewis, Councillor for Morriston Ward and Cabinet Member for Service Transformation, which includes climate change.
That's lovely. Thank you, councillors. And we've got a number of officers with us today. If you could introduce yourselves as well.
My name is Tom Price. I'm the team leader in the pollution control team and the private sector housing team.
Paula Livingstone, I'm the Divisional Officer for Pollution Control and Private Sector Housing.
Deborah Hill, I'm the Nature Conservation Team Leader with Swansea Council.
Morning, Paul Meller, Natural Environment Section Manager.
Morning, Jeff Bacon, Head of Property Services. I'm the lead for delivery of climate change and nature recovery in Swansea, and there are a few officers online as well. If you want to pick some of those up.
Okay, thank you. Would those of you online like to introduce yourselves as well?
I'm Carol Morgan. Good morning. I'm Interim Head of Housing and Public Health.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Lewis and I'm Place Directorate Project Manager, working with Jeff on Climate Change Agenda.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. You can see we've got...
Sorry, can I also add we have officers from Natural Resources Wales on the line as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Hamish, are you there? Would you be able to introduce yourself and Sarah?
Yeah, I'm Hamish Osborne. I'm the Environment Team Leader for Swansea for Natural Resources Wales.
And I'm Sarah Bedditt. I'm a Senior Officer in the Swansea Environment Team, Natural Resources Wales.
Wonderful, thank you and welcome. We've got a really busy meeting today, big agenda, so we're going to try and get through it as much as we can. First of all, do we have any apologies, Liz?
We received apologies from Cabinet Member Andrew Stevens.
Thank you. And are there any declarations or disclosures? No. Okay, and any prohibition of whip votes or declaration of party whips? No. Okay, so going into the minutes of the previous meeting, if I can go through them page by page, and if anyone's got any comments, please raise them. So first one is the minutes of Tuesday, 15th of March, 2022, page 1. Page 2, page 3, page 4, and letter to Councillor Andrea Lewis. pages 5 to 7. Okay, thank you. And can I take that as agreed and accepted? Councillor Jones.
Sorry, would you let me just ask a question, because it's such a long time ago? I think it was Action 1 said that training would be given in the new term, you know, for councillors. And I'm wondering if it ever was put in the training programme, because I don't recall seeing anything. I'm sure it's number 1. Just find it. It was Action 1. Now when you want it, you can't find it.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, hi. Rachel may be able to add a bit more to this, but yeah, we're working on an online training program at the moment. Jane Richmond, who's on leave this week, probably could have updated if she was here, but that's something that's coming to the point of almost completion. So will be rolled out hopefully very soon.
Yes, sorry, I can add to that. We are holding the online e-learning training is ready to go. There are 2 modules at the moment with more to follow, but we are holding on that until we take our report to Cabinet in December so that we can add our final action plan information into the training. We thought we would wait to make sure that it's fully encompassing.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? Okay, can I take those as accepted? Thank you. Okay, so Liz, have we received any public questions?
No questions, Chair.
Okay, so that's item 5 covered. Right, next item is the report, which I'm guessing everybody has already read. Can we have any comments on sections 1, 2, or 3 of the report? Okay, no questions. And can we take a look at section 4, effective working? Is there anything that anybody wants to raise? Or we'll just go through a couple of things really quickly. When necessary, we might have to hold short pre-meetings, a few days or so before panel meetings to prepare questions. Panel members will be included in all communications about the panel, and a draft letter will be circulated to panel members following each meeting for comments. Final version will then be sent to the Cabinet member, and the Cabinet member's response will be circulated to the panel when received and included in the agenda pack for the next meeting together with the draft minutes. Decorum at meetings, just to remind everyone that scrutiny is non-political and everyone's expected to behave appropriately. Meetings are scheduled to be bi-monthly at 10 a.m. till 12 to 12:30 on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Panel members have received meeting invitations to all meetings this municipal year, and they're currently scheduled to be multi-location, either at the Gloucester Room, Guildhall, or via Teams. If the panel want to decide that a particular meeting should just be held online, if it is prior to the agenda pack being published. Is there anything else that anyone wants to raise around the practicalities of meetings? No. Okay, great. In that case, can we move on to item 7, which is water quality and water management? If I can ask who is leading on this. I know we've got our guests from Natural Resources Wales.
That would be me, Tom Price, from the Pollution Control and Private Sector Housing team.
Thank you. Over to you then, Tom.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. The purpose really of the report, which is contained within the bundle, is I'm not intending to read through it or go through it because everybody's had a chance to read it. It's seen as an overview. But what I'd like to do, sort of to open up with this morning, colleagues online from Natural Resources Wales here, Hamish and Sarah, I'm very grateful for their attendance. However, we've only got them for a short period of time this morning. So I was going to really just ask and field questions really, and what questions you may have with regard to the work that's done by the local authority and also in partnership with and collaboration with NRW in the water environment regards quality and management. So I'd like to open the floor really over to yourselves for any questions that you have for us.
Okay, David, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I think what this report actually does is talk about that partnership between NRW. You know, to be honest, there's never been a better partnership within the department because they actually rely on each other. They work very close together. And I think we're doing right and proper when we talk about oil spills and particularly what happened in Llangerach, you know, just outside the border of Swansea. And that true partnership working kicked in at that particular point and really, because it had serious effects to I know it was across the board and not in our authority. It really did affect particularly other areas like Pencloud and particularly the estuary around that. So the importance of having that partnership working is really, really important. And I know we've got a very good working relationship with NRW and other partners. So I would encourage, you know, the report is very comprehensive, talks about many, sampling and everything else, but most people don't realise what goes on behind the scenes and what we are doing, particularly in this department. So it is, I would say, it's a good story. It's obviously it's highlighting there are issues. But monitoring is really, really important. You know, water quality is really important to us because we've got some beautiful beaches and we don't want to see them spoilt. And we've got a river that needs constant monitoring as well. So nothing to add to the report, but really I would encourage people to ask questions and read the report and yeah, look at what we have done and what we are doing.
Councillor Mary Jones?
Thank you. Just I'd better ask a question because it seems to have gone a bit quiet. There's been a lot of media interest in spillage into the sea, you know, around after storms. I don't recall anything from the Swansea Bay area, so I'm assuming that we're managing our water resources and our storm overflows very well, but I just like the reassurance that we haven't had any major incidents with sewerage getting into the sea. Thank you.
Shall I answer that one?
Yes, I was going to say, if you're able to come in on that as a regulator, Hamish, please.
Yeah, so we obviously around the coast and on many of our rivers, there are storm overflows. And those storm overflows are designed to spill excess water that gets into the sewer system during storm conditions, heavy rainfall. And it allows it to spill into the environment to prevent the sewers being overloaded and backing up on people's houses. They've been in place since sewers were invented, essentially. And we do have storm overflows in Swansea. What's happened over the last 10 years is we've been working with our colleagues in the council and with Welsh Water to identify which of those storm overflows are having the biggest impact, particularly on our bathing waters and our shellfish waters. Now, you will probably all remember, well, some of you as old as me will remember how the water quality wasn't very good in Swansea many years ago. And you might find things that you didn't want to see in the sea. Well, a lot of that was due to storm overflows, and they have been worked on continuously over the last decade. So we're in a position now where on our most vulnerable stretches of coast, the overflows only spill in extreme conditions. We do still have some problem ones that we're working on, and Welsh Water have been asked to install monitoring equipment into those overflows so that they can get accurate information about how often they do spill. Now, you will have seen some of those alerts that might come out warning people that there have been spills. A lot of those alerts are now being made available because of that monitoring equipment. So we're finding out for the first time how many spills are coming from some of the overflows that we didn't really have much information about. So the next phase is to drill down into which problem overflows still exist and prioritise with Welsh Water and Ofwat which of those get investment for improvement. So if you've got any further questions about that, I know that Swansea Bay received a lot of investment in the last round of investment from what we call AMP, from the water industry. We don't know which ones will be prioritised in the next round, but we're currently working on that.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald. Oh, you're on mute, I think, Wendy.
I've got a problem. It's off now. Thank you. I'm asking a question of a similar nature. I'm looking at section 2 of the report, which talks about water pollution and incidents. It does say that the Pollution Control and Private Sector Housing Division provides a 24-hour response for water-related incidents. It lists a number of incidents which include sewage issues relating to septic tanks. Now, what about sewage discharging into the sea? Oil spills at sea? You know, does the council have any responsibility for these sewage discharges into the sea, or is that down to Natural Resources Wales, or even Welsh Water? Who deals with those? Just Natural Resources Wales.
I would say there's a shared responsibility there. Natural Resources Wales is responsible for discharges into what we call controlled water, so that would be rivers, most lakes, and the sea. We don't normally give advice on issues of directly of public health. So we work with our council colleagues on the public health impacts of some of those discharges, but we have primary responsibility for responding to pollution incidents. Welsh Water have a responsibility to stay within their permit limits, and they will be informed if there are any issues relating to their assets, and they will attend and sort those out. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they do that and to follow up with any enforcement should we need to. So it's a shared responsibility, but we have a pollution hotline. You can find details of that on our website, and that's the number you should ring if you see a pollution incident affecting rivers or the sea.
Just to add, in addition to that, as Hamish has said, you know, we do chat, we do talk out of hours if incidents occur, and officers will discuss, etc., about what the relevant sort of public health sort of response would be. And Swansea Bay, for example, through the summer has the bathing model that is working on the prediction for good or poor water quality with regard to bathing. So if a spill or an incident trips during the day, the inputs that are recording the rainfall counts, the river flow gauges we have, that will pick up and forecast poor water quality. So our signage will also display that message on Swansea Bay at that designated bathing site.
So some of our pollution that you might see on some of our smaller streams particularly might be related to domestic misconnections, where people have connected their foul drain, that might be from a toilet, it might be from a shower, who knows, to the wrong pipe, the wrong sewer, and it ends up in our streams and rivers, sometimes into the sea, but more likely into a stream or river. And we work with our council colleagues to correct misconnections, and also Welsh Water will help us out on those as well, because they have some of the equipment and some of the expertise for tracing the problem. So we work together on those, and We've been working on them for some time now and have made significant progress. They still have a habit of reoccurring, and we are trying to chase them down and find them and correct them wherever we can. But it's a joint effort because neither of us have the complete set of powers to resolve them on our own. So we need to work together on them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Chris Evans?
Hi, good morning. One of the main issues with water quality in Wales is agricultural pesticide runoff. It's causing massive problems in the Wye and in Carmarthenshire. How effectively is this monitored in Swansea?
Okay, so a lot of the agricultural problems we see are linked as much as anything to nutrients and to slurry, as well as rather than pesticides. Pesticides can be a problem, but our main problem throughout Wales that we experience is to do with runoff or incidents regarding slurry. Now, in terms of monitoring, we monitor most of our rivers, or nearly all of our rivers, on a regular basis, and that information is fed back, and we look at the nutrient status of the rivers. In Swansea, agriculture doesn't tend to be such an impact on our water quality, and we generally have more problems due to urban and suburban runoff. Either due to as I say, misconnections or oil pollution, etc. But we do occasionally have discussions with people over some agricultural impacts. In Swansea, it isn't our biggest issue. It's something that we do monitor for, and we do if we need to follow up some of the reports of high nutrients. It may be on stretches of the Lecha, there might be some nutrient impacts that need to be looked at, but generally agriculture isn't our primary concern with water quality in Swansea anyway. It's perhaps more of an issue in Carmarthenshire, where we do have teams working with the agriculture community on trying to improve the management of slurry systems on farms that have to some extent intensified due to business pressure over recent years. As you know, there's certain issues on the Wye that are being worked on between us and the Environment Agency.
Thank you. Does that answer your question okay, Chris?
Yes, yeah. There's and I think there's only one sort of major multiple poultry units that I can think of sort of locally. So yeah, so I was kind of expecting it to be similar to that.
So multiple poultry units locally, did you say?
Yes, yeah. Because they tend to have the most sort of waste and slurry to discharge, because they're sort of breaking the carrying capacity of the land.
Yeah, a lot of poultry waste is taken off site from the farm to other farms, and we don't experience, so we're not picking up a lot of problems in Swansea. I mean, I cover Swansea. I can't speak for my colleagues next door from poultry, and I know poultry is an issue in Powys, and some of my colleagues in Powys have significant concerns over the increase in intensive poultry units there. It's not something that we tend to have water quality problems here in Swansea.
Okay.
But if you know of anything, feel free to phone it in.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Will Thomas?
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned earlier there's a couple of trouble sites with regards to discharge into the sea that you're working with. I represent the Mumbles ward, which covers Caswell Bay also, and Langland. I often get complaints about the discharge into the sea. We often get alerts. I'm wondering, firstly, is that one of the trouble sites? Because I'd be amazed if it wasn't. What is being done, and how many trouble sites does the county have compared to similar authorities on the coast? it obviously affects tourism. It obviously affects people's health. That goes without saying. So just want to know how we compare with other authorities, really, and if Caswell is one of the sites. Thank you.
Okay, so you might have seen alerts of Caswell and Langland. I'll answer that question first. So there are in Langland, in both beaches, there are what we understand to be emergency overflows rather than storm overflows. We have experienced some problems where there have been flooding in the system, particularly in Caswell, which in the past has led to those overflow alerts being triggered. From what we understand, and having looked at the data, the volumes discharged in both Langland and Caswell are very, very small. When you get an alert, it means there has been a trigger in these cases in the pumping station. The pumping station has been possibly overwhelmed, and there's been a high level alert. Now, that can mean a very, very minor discharge. It can mean a significant discharge that could last hours, or in some cases, in some places, even days. We don't believe that to be the case in either Langland or Caswell. In fact, in Langland, we're not even sure that the discharge got into the sea in the most recent alerts. Now, Langland has been concerning us. Caswell has been concerning us for some time, because we know that the pumping station gets overwhelmed, and we also know that the valley has tended to get flooded in storm conditions. So you've got a bit of a problem there, because obviously the pumping station is below ground. So I know that the council drainage section and Welsh Water and your colleagues who manage the Caswell Valley have all been working together to try and reduce the amount of stormwater that impacts on the system there. Now, my understanding is that situation significantly improved, and the risk is a lot lower now. We don't think it was ever discharging in a big way in Langland and Caswell, but once an alert triggers, it will stay there and it won't get cancelled until a period of time. Now, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and we've been monitoring Langland and Caswell in our bathing water monitoring, and I haven't got the results for this year yet because Welsh Government hasn't released them, but we do get a sneak preview because obviously we receive the results ourselves. And I understand that Langland has performed very well this year in terms of water quality, and Caswell, I understand, I can't say for sure yet because the results are embargoed. We haven't even seen them ourselves, but I understand that Caswell will probably remain at the same level it is now, which is excellent. But I can't say for sure. So if anyone's listening, don't quote me on that, because it is something that Welsh Government will release. When is it, Sarah?
I think it's 25th of November.
25th of November. There's a grand reveal of the bathing water results for the whole of Wales. Okay, so I don't want to be complacent about it. We are constantly worried about any potential pollution. So we've been looking at the situation in Langland as well, and we're asking Welsh Water to investigate why those alerts have happened, and has there been any discharge. Compared to other places, well, we do know that Swansea Bay has moved from its initial classification when the new regulations came in, the bathing water regulations, from sufficient, and it's now good, and it's moving towards the upper end of good. So we're not in a bad position there. There are some discharges in Swansea Bay and in Mumbles that we have to watch. And we will be working with Welsh Water in this next round of investment to make sure that any risky high spillers are being looked at. But I don't think we're in a bad position in your particular area.
Could I just come back one question, Chair? So is there any infrastructure improvements that are needed or happening or planned in the area to improve that, or are you saying it's not needed?
Well, we would always be looking for infrastructure improvements. And obviously, as the Swansea team, we are always asking for the infrastructure in our area to be investigated and improved if need be. And we know that there are high spillers in the Swansea area that we're looking at the spill numbers, and we will be asking for improvements on, but they tend to be on the tower rather than in Mumbles. Obviously, Nabrock remains a storm discharge. We're not seeing much impact from the storm discharge from Nabrock, but it's something that we do want to make sure is monitored and is taken into account in any investment planning. We will be looking with Welsh Water to make sure that we are monitoring the situation in Langland. We do know that there is a pumping station there that might need looking at in terms of maintenance, but it's not a storm discharge, and we're not concerned about any storm discharges in Langland or Castle. It's those emergency discharges that we want to make sure only happen, only functions emergency discharges rather than storm discharges. Now, emergency discharges are where you have a pumping station that if it does fail for any reason, it has got an outlet. If you don't have an outlet from a pumping station and you have a massive power failure, for example, and it can't pump sewage forward, we don't want it coming out in people's houses, flooding the houses, so that most pumping stations will have an emergency discharge.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Sarah Keaton.
Hi. Actually, Will's asked some of the question. I mean, I know that we've inherited in Swansea, as in most places, a Victorian sewer system, which is just not up to our modern day use. How does it? And I know it would be ridiculously expensive to completely dig it up and start again. And I know with climate change, I mean, look at the weather at the moment, the torrential rain. How are we going to future-proof it? Because it's going to get worse, isn't it?
Climate change is a significant challenge in terms of managing any sewer system or drainage system, because we know that we are getting and are likely to get more intense storms, and which will put pressure on any drainage system. So it's something that Welsh Water are taking into account in their forward planning. I can't speak on behalf of Welsh Water. We're the regulator, and I'm not here to represent them, but they have put some plans forward, and there was a consultation recently. Sarah, remember the name of it?
So the water companies are required to, or they do set out a drainage and wastewater management plan, DWMP it's called.
Yeah, DWMP, that's what I'm looking for.
You can look that on their website. It's quite comprehensive. That's a 25-year plan, which should address the concerns that you have. Now, whether that would involve rebuilding the whole system, I doubt very much, because the money's just not going to be there. But it does address climate change and how that's going to be resolved, and it does give some quite ambitious aims that they have. Where they would like to be. They are aiming towards a reduction in spills and, well, actually an elimination of spills and also of internal flooding, but obviously that can't happen without funding. Yeah.
So as I say, we I can't speak on behalf of Welsh Water, but we do certainly within NRW, we do work with them to scrutinise their plans and to try and ensure that their ambition is as high as it needs to be. So that document, the DWMP, that I always forget the name of, is worth reading, and it is something that, if it is delivered, would be a significant step forward. And our job is to work with them and make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald, I think you've got another question.
Yes, actually, a couple of questions. One relating to the use of septic tanks in urban areas. I can fully understand that if you live in a rural area, you need a septic tank, or it's highly likely you will. I do find it a bit of a struggle to understand that I have new build houses in my ward, a stone's throw from the A48 and junction 47, and they are on septic tanks. And the argument is that, well, the main drain is a bit too far away. I just wonder what your views are of that kind of scenario, because I find it quite worrying, because there are spillages, there is standing water in the woodland, which smells of sewage, and there seems to be no answer. And the other question I wanted to raise was, what kind of involvement do you have with construction sites? I'm thinking in terms of silt being carried in surface water, etc.
Okay, so those are two really good questions. We would rather not see the proliferation of septic tanks where there is an alternative. We would rather see people connect to the main drain. We don't have powers to stop people applying for septic tank permits, and we don't necessarily control we can't control the planning process. So if people get plan permission and the plan permission says that they can connect, they can resolve their drainage with a septic tank, and they apply to us to register that, or if they need to a permit, if they meet the conditions for either of those, they will get a septic tank. Doesn't mean to say the septic tank is going to work perfectly. Doesn't mean to say there won't be problems. If there are problems, then between us and our council colleagues, we should be looking at that and trying to deal with them. But I would prefer that we didn't have a lot of extra septic tanks.
Sorry, I do apologise. I'm at home by myself and phones ring all the time.
Okay. So yeah, septic tanks can work well if the conditions are right. In urban areas, often you're limited in space in terms of where you can install a drainage field. And we know that some of the ground conditions in Swansea aren't the best for getting good conditions for a soakaway. So I share your concern. I would rather that we didn't have a lot of extra septic tanks popping up all over the place. But they're not something that we can control.
Oh. Sorry, someone is clearly trying to get me. I do apologise.
So in terms of silt, a building site shouldn't result in silt pollution in the rivers. I know that in Penllgare there is a problem at the moment. I personally have been on site there, attending that and trying to get the developer to manage the situation better. There are two problems there. One is that the working area of the building site seemed to be connected to a live spine drain that had been recently installed. We've asked them to remove that connection and to deal with their runoff water in a different way. They should be doing that. The other problem is that they have undertaken an excavation to install part of that drainage. And that has left a large area of bare soil, which will inevitably erode and cause silt pollution. It's not easy for them to solve that now. The problem has occurred. So we've asked them to put silt fences in and straw bales to try and manage that better. We're monitoring the situation. We're not happy about it. And one of the things that would be much better is when builders get planning permission to develop a site, is that they put surface water management first and they put the drains, the systems in to treat any dirty water that arises on site with the correct size and number of attenuation ponds, and that they employ sustainable urban drainage systems for the finished site to minimise the impact on the water environment. It's not always easy to achieve that for the planning process. It's something we need to work on much better in future. I would like to see much better phasing of building sites, so they don't strip all of the soil immediately they get on site, and that they work in a much cleaner way. And the site in Pentlegare is unfortunately an example of how not to do it at the moment. I'm hoping to get that changed, and if necessary, we will exercise our powers to make sure that happens.
Thank you very much for that, and you will understand, you know, we are talking at this time on a panel dealing with the environment and climate change, and there has been immense damage to the environment created by this first construction site, with another one pending very, very shortly. So I hope others, you know, on this panel with developments in their midst will take account of what can happen with silt discharging into surface water. And in the case in Pentlegare, as you know, Hamish, it's going into the valued amenity site of Pentlegare Pond, full of fish, now polluted. So it's a tragedy, and I just hope we can recover from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm aware that our colleagues at National Resources Wales have to go fairly soon.
Yeah, I have to duck out in the next couple of minutes, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
Okay, we've just got, if we can just make it really brief, we've got two more people waiting to ask questions. I believe Councillor Mary Jones.
I don't think mine's for Hamish, actually. It's 3.2 in the report about private drinking water supplies. And I was on the panel, I think, when we had the regulation came in. How often do we actually do the risk assessments and the monitoring? Because I recall this was going to cause us a problem when it first came out, because we didn't know where all the private water supplies were. So are we confident we've got them all now? And how often do we actually, as I said, monitor or do a risk assessment? Thank you.
I can answer that question, but with the time constraints, are you happy if we pick it up after, just in case the next question's for NRW?
Yes, okay. Councillor Sarah Keaton, is your question for Natural Resources Wales?
Well, yes, just a quick one. I know we've got the SUDS rules now with building. Doesn't that help at all?
Yeah, absolutely it helps. Absolutely it helps.
Right, okay, thank you.
But there are limits to what any piece of legislation can do, and the SUDS are more about the drainage arrangements on the finished development, to make sure that they try and maintain sort of more natural flows in drains, rivers, ditches, streams, etc. The issue that we have on building sites is when the developer gets on site while they're working, while the housing estate is being built, that we get pollution from the building activities, and that's what we would like to get better at preventing. They do have to do a construction environmental management plan, but we need those plans to be better. We need to make sure that the house builders take it more seriously, or are more aware of the risks that it presents. Now, I have been up on site, and this one that Wendy refers to, they are taking it seriously, but now they know about it. But some of the damage is done, and it's very difficult to put it back. And what we need to do is work better with our planning colleagues and with the developers to make sure that they take more care over the building phase of any development. Right, but yes, the SUDS regulations are a significant step forward. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to have to drop out now, I'm afraid. So thank you for letting us come and talk in the committee, and you know where we are, and we're always happy to talk and discuss issues and resolve any problems that that might occur. And you know, we do work very well with our council colleagues and also with the nature conservation team, who I know Deb is in the meeting today, and we've got a really good relationship with the teams across the council. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Hamish. Thanks, Sarah. And look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, if we could return to Councillor Jones's question, please, Tom.
With regard to private supplies, so if it's a commercial or shared supply, so if you had like a rental property, for example, that supplied the actual source supplied 2 dwellings, then it would be an annual check from us. Welsh Government sets the sampling fees, etc. as well. But if it's a single private supply, then it's a 5-year cycle. But we're confident that we've captured everything within the area, and we do. You know, we certainly get on top of the annual ones, and we've got a sampling and routine cycle. And there's a new risk assessment tool being developed now by DWI, and there are several officers within the team now that are all competent authorised officers by DWI for sampling. So yes, we're happy that we're on top of it.
Okay, do we have any further questions on item 7 at all? No. Okay, in that case, is everyone happy to move on to item 8, overview of climate change and nature in Swansea? Can I ask who's going to be leading on this? Jeff, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. It's a relatively brief report, and I guess it's probably more for the fact of setting the scene for panel in terms of the future work programme. There are some important actions that have happened quite recently and will lead into more important actions going forward. The first being the adoption of the corporate wellbeing objective for delivery of nature recovery and climate change. That's clearly a very important aspect for us in terms of raising the relevance of the objective within a wider corporate plan. We set out issues around, the current process around governance on climate change and nature recovery, which are really all about ensuring we can deliver on making Swansea Council net zero by 2030, making the county of Swansea net zero by 2050, and of course delivering on nature recovery. We have a number of bodies now set up in place. Ultimately, at the very top, we have our CDC in terms of developing policies. Underneath that, we have our sort of a climate change and nature recovery steering group, and then the officer programme board, which has reports from the various specific action groups, which are all actions that are currently happening in any event and all contained within existing resources. In the report, we set out where we are with regards to external reporting. On emissions, for example, and net zero, we've recently reported to the Welsh Government on Swansea's emissions. It's ever-changing guidance, so that will continue to change over the next few years. But that's going to be an important element of the report that we're taking to Cabinet in December in terms of how we can respond to the Wales Audit Office comments and how we are setting out a forward action plan for delivery of net zero for Swansea Council by 2030. And we also cover issues around Section 6 reporting on the council's biodiversity responsibilities, nature recovery, etc. And that's coming forward. Both of those reports are coming forward to this body. Net zero report is due in January 2023 after we've gone to Cabinet and dependent upon the outcome of that decision. And I think there's a further report coming back on nature recovery in March of next year in response to previous panel request for further report. So hopefully that sets out sort of a broad outline of how we're looking to tackle the issue. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Sarah Keaton, did you have a question?
Sorry, no, I can't put my hand down on this. So, yeah, trying my hardest here. No, I haven't.
Okay, no worries. Are there any other questions on the report? Councillor Will Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. And excuse me if this isn't the right time to bring this question up, but I think it might be. I'm not sure. Jeff, I'm just wondering, something I've spoken to Councillor Evans about a number of times is, and Andrea actually as well, mini hydro across Swansea. And I'm just wondering if your department's ever done an audit of potential miniature hydro sites, and if the counties, could potentially take advantage of, mini hydro power stations, and if there's anywhere that we could put them, or if we haven't done a report on that, is it possible that we could look into it, please? And again, apologies if this isn't the right time to bring it up.
No, that's fine. Absolutely the right time, because we can talk about where we think we might be going. Essentially, we're working with our neighbouring authorities in the development of a regional energy development plan. That, quite frankly, though, does deal with how we can green the grid more towards the 2050 target as opposed to 2030 target. But there's been a recent procurement exercise funded by Welsh Government to enable us to collectively appoint consultants to enable us to generate a local energy development plan, which will then feed into the wider region. That has only recently started. There's clearly a huge amount of work to be done in terms of all the opportunities, all the stakeholders, almost just a scoping exercise in the first instance to see how we can actually take that forward. And that will be the time when we look at all opportunities when it comes to generation of renewables. That will probably follow during the course of 2023.
And I'm guessing that'll come back to this committee, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think it's actually identified in the work plan as yet, because this is something that's happened over the last sort of couple of months in terms of the procurement exercise. Once we understand who the consultants will be, and once we start that mobilisation exercise, we'll have a better idea of timescale, and we'll be coming to this meeting. We can probably pick it up in the January meeting in terms of an update, hopefully. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on the report? Councillor Mary Jones?
Thank you. Two questions. First one, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer. Are we really confident that the council will ever achieve net zero? That's the first one, because it is difficult. I'm not saying to be awkward. I just feel that it's such a huge agenda. Will anyone actually ever get to net zero, not just the council? And on page 36, what is fairer parking? You've got a bike and cyclist friendly Swansea, underneath fairer parking. I'd like to know what it is, please.
Sorry, Councillor Jones, I can't answer either of those. I think, as you rightly said, net zero by 2030 is incredibly difficult. I think everyone recognises that fact. We're being led and guided by Welsh Government, and they're taking a whole Wales approach, which is probably sensible, because some areas might find it more easier than others when it comes to public bodies. So we'll know a lot more once we've done that sort of number crunching when it comes to that December report. And I've got no idea what fairer parking is, sorry. But we can find out. We can find out.
Rachel, I think you wanted to come in on that.
Hang on to my microphone. Thank you. It was just to come back on Councillor Thomas's query on renewables. There is a renewables conversation due in CDC in the new year. So whilst it isn't on the work plan for scrutiny, it is on the CDC work plan.
Okay, and in terms of the fairer parking, I think we can make some inquiries for you for that. Are there any other questions on the report? Okay, well, if everyone's happy to move on to item 8, draft work programme. Okay, has everybody had a chance to have a look at the work programme? And is everybody happy with the items that are scheduled for the year so far? Of course, if anything else urgent does come up, we will, have opportunity to shuffle things around a little bit. And it's quite interesting to hear things like the local energy plan that we'll be getting updates on in January. I know that in our previous meetings back with Peter Jones, we discussed planning enforcement, and it's funny that it's an issue that's come up again today. We have taken advice on whether that is an appropriate agenda item for this panel, and we've been told that it is. The planning enforcement is being dealt with elsewhere in scrutiny as a planning issue, and then it's not really the place to be discussing planning issues under this forum, but we will be able to join those particular panel planning discussions if we want to, and we'll make sure that people are aware of when those meetings are being held, and it will be raised with the relevant cabinet member when they attend the scrutiny programme committee. Is there anything else that anyone has to say on the work programme for the year? We are getting through this quickly. Okay, is there any other business that anybody wants to raise? No, okay. Well, in that case, I think it's if everybody's content, then our next meeting will be on the 10th of January at 10 a.m. with items to be discussed, including climate change update, green vehicle adoption, public and residential EV charging, and weed management and use of glyphosate. Okay, so thank you ever so much for attending, and thank you very much for our guests and officers. And I will see everybody in January. I hope you have a lovely Christmas and New Year in between. Thank you.
Thank you.